In this video I want to talk about profile and branding and raising your profile on social media. I am very active on social media, and if you're on Facebook or YouTube or LinkedIn or Twitter, you'll see that I am active, very active. But what I do generally is I distribute what I believe to be useful content. Everything that I distribute, with the exception of some personal stuff like loaves of bread that I bake or beer that I drink, personal images, personal photographs, trips to the west of Ireland or to a European city, with the exception of those things which are clearly personal, everything else that I distribute is aimed and geared to be of use. It must have utility. And that is the prism through which I judge everything I'm going to distribute. So, for example, this morning on Facebook, I created a couple of posts, and I distributed videos. One of the videos is about constructive dismissal and 10 things that you should know about constructive dismissal. The other was a video about some aspect about investment property, actually, about putting together or investing in property and putting together perhaps some sort of a syndicate and so on. But regardless of what I distributed, the prism and the check all the time must be, is this useful? Is this of benefit or potential benefit to the people that I aim to serve? Okay? Now, I do it for a very specific, selfish reason, and that is I want to and need to generate clients and grow my business. But there's nothing wrong with generating clients, and there's nothing wrong with growing your business. That's what people are supposed to do when they are running their own business and they have outgoings to discharge and the mortgages to pay and the families to support and so on and so forth. But I always apply that test or ask myself that question, is this useful? And again, this morning I set up 10 tweets to be distributed on Twitter. Again, there are links to blog posts that I've written. The blog posts are all on my website, businessandlegal.ie, but they all are of some value or some use. I would contrast that, you may not agree, but I would contrast that with a situation where somebody is tweeting, for example, on Twitter, obviously, or making posts on LinkedIn to say, I'm on RT1 today, or I'm quoted in the newspaper, or I'm on Today FM, or I'm on the local radio station, or whatever. I think there's a big difference between the two activities. One is clearly self-promotional, the other is self-promotional but with a utility or utilitarian aspect to it. In other words, what I'm saying I distribute is useful, but I don't say I was on the radio today or I'm on the TV tomorrow or stuff like that. So that's not really useful. It's more self-aggrandizement and so on and so forth. But I have to laugh sometimes when I see that happening, because I always think about people who are raising their profile and talking about the radio stations or the TV stations or the newspapers that they're quoted in, and I contrast that with people who are quietly, efficiently working away below the radar, filling their boots with clients, filling their diaries with consultations, filling their files with new conveyances, new property purchases, new sales, new investment properties, new personal injury claims, and so on. It's just something that I find funny and noteworthy and remarkable, I suppose, to a certain extent, because I would always like to be the guy not saying I was on the radio today on Live Line, or I was on Morning Ireland, or I was on with Sean O'Rourke if he was still going, or whatever. I would always like to be the guy operating under the radar, filling my boots with clients and growing my business. I think if you are running a business, or if you are looking to run a business, if you're looking to grow, and indeed you probably could apply the same sort of principle to your career, you must distinguish between, on the one hand, profile or high profile for the sake of profile, and two, effective discharge of duties, effective acquisition of clients, effective growth of the business. And I come back always to this question of function versus form. If it's a question of, and if I have to choose between function and form, I will always choose function. And this is a debate that I have regularly with my wife. She likes form, I like function. My question is always, does it work? Is this the most efficient way? Is this the most effective way? And therefore, when I'm doing my social media thing like this, I am asking the question every single time, is this useful? And if it is useful, I will distribute it, I will publish it, I will tweet about it, I will make a video about it, I will make a post on Facebook or LinkedIn. And even the personal stuff, quite frankly, there is an element of strategic thinking about that, and that is the question of filling out the profile, filling out the brand, being interesting, being not just another solicitor, but being interesting. So there is a certain degree of intention, a certain degree of method to my madness. Anyway, it's just an idea that I've had. It's lunchtime on the 18th of August. You might find it useful. You might find it thought-provoking. If you're running a business, if you're trying to start a business, if you're trying to start a career, if you're trying to develop, I would suggest that you cast a cold, beady eye over what you're doing, particularly in social media, and particularly ask yourself the question, is it useful? Does it have utility? If it does, you're going to grow your business. If it doesn't, you may be accused of engaging in self-aggrandizement and hubris. Anyway, as I say, it's just an idea. I would appreciate if you gave the thumbs up down below if you agreed, and I'd be interested in your comments, and you may be interested in subscribing to my YouTube channel.